The following are the words of Louis Civello, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back. That's why I'm moving right along. This is the segment I look forward to the most, talking to our great president of the Suffolk County PBA, Louis Civello. Always fills us in on some great insight when it comes to the workings of the PBA, and more importantly, our men and women that are out there on the street doing a job that is second to none. I mean, incredible, folks. We're going to be talking to the Suffolk County DA right after Lou at the 105 hour, and he sent me a whole bunch of press releases of arrests that were made. But keep in mind, those arrests are through the professionalism of our police department and the expertise that we have, and that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about. Louis Civello, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Tom. Great to be back with you.
You know, I'm looking at some of the, I'll be talking to the district attorney, and there's some real dangerous folks out there. Now, we have a safe county. There's no doubt about it. We have great police officers. You and I have spoken about the training and the type of recruitment that we do and who we get. Now, we have talked about the fact that that needs to widen its base, but that's a national problem. It's a problem happening all over the country and getting the best and the brightest. And we do a damn good job in Suffolk County. It'd be nice to open that up a little bit, but again, that we could apply that to Los Angeles or Chicago and New York and so on, is getting people to take this type of law enforcement. Like, for argument's sake, or one of the areas of concern is this whole thing about gangs. And I know we have officers that work gang task force and the gang unit and so on. These are great police officers. DA Ray Tierney spoke about one of the cases is the arrest of the shooting that took place outside of former congressman and former gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin's home. They made an arrest there, and the individual pled guilty to it. But it all goes down to that dangerous element of gang warfare and what's taking place. So I guess the question that I have is that expertise that goes into that just doesn't happen. You know, it's not like writing a parking ticket. When you go out there and you do the investigation work and so on, and you work with the DA and so on, what makes us a cut above everybody else? Now, I could say that because I know that as a fact. But how would you then attest that to your membership in the PBA and also the police department as a greater whole?
Certainly, Tom. Well, you know, our members are second to none when it comes to their dedication and how they approach gangs. So much of the violent crime here in New York and in our country and the drug trade are really connected to these gangs. And I think it comes down to, the dedication of our membership, the fact that, we have been ground zero in terms of some of the gang activity going back to the MS-13 days, where we were accustomed to dealing with these violent gangs that migrate many times illegally from other countries and bring their violent street crime right here to Long Island. So it's years of dedication. It is the fact that we work collaboratively with our state and federal partners, and certainly having a DA that actually prosecutes crime that makes the difference. When you look over in New York City and you see New York City is sort of a magnet for some of these gang activities because you have people migrating here illegally. New York City is a sanctuary city where you're giving a cell phone and an EBT card and put up in a nice hotel and have a target-rich environment because, in a borough like Manhattan, you have a DA that just will not prosecute people, whereas here, DA Tierney aggressively prosecutes crime. So I think having that partnership with the DA's office and certainly with our state and federal partners really does make the difference here.
And again, it certainly points to what your membership does and how important it is, whether it's just working a sector car in the 5th precinct or it's working a gang task force. They're out there. They're in, and I say this delicately, but they're in harm's way in a lot of circumstances. I mean, as a police officer, you're always into harm's way. You know, when you sit down with the county and and negotiate, let's say, what's best. How can we make working conditions better for our police officers? Does this ever come up? Because I wonder about that in terms of when we're putting contracts together for our cops and make it so that they could not just support their families, but at least to give them the sense of an element that we got your back type of thing. Is that part of the general dynamic when we make it better for our men and women in law enforcement?
Yes, yeah. Working conditions are always a priority when you're negotiating, Tom. If you look at the incident with Officer LaForce, who was shot by a gang member and almost lost his life, that was the direct result of just not having enough cops on the street. Officer LaForce was backfilling on the day, or his partner was backfilling on the day that he encountered that violent individual, and did not have a partner. He did not have somebody sitting next to him. Did not have someone that could fire back once he was hit. And if that individual had wanted to execute him, it was as simple as him, walking a few feet and firing a few more shots. I'm very happy to say in this latest budget from County Executive Romaine, he has put a priority on officer safety, and he has increased the funding for police officers. We expect to, after retirement, net an additional 95 Suffolk County police officers to be out there on the street to make sure that never happens again. That our gang police officers have the appropriate backup that they need to make sure that we do not lose a police officer in the line of duty that could have been avoided.
Well, that's good news. That's good news that you just reported. And we've had County Executive Romaine on the program a number of times. And his number one priority is law enforcement, is policing, and the realization of that. That's what people care about. Let's be honest with everything out there, But then we hear that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they announced that there's at least 600,000 plus people that have been infiltrating the entire country, that over 13,000 have already been convicted of homicide. 1,800 are still waiting to stand trial. 15,000 sexual deviants, those who commit assaults and rapes and so on. That's just what we're dealing with. Now, when they place them in and couple that with the mere fact that New York's got its damn sanctuary status, this puts a further burden on our cops. And this has to be known to the elected officials when they sit down with you folks and saying, come on now, we're dealing with a greater burden than we did just 4 years ago when this administration decided to close the damn borders and then say this is a good thing to do. And then we find out ICE is telling us 600,000 gotaways there that are convicted criminals. How do we then cope with that in terms of the position that you're in to try to keep our membership safe? And I know that your concern is always the people of Suffolk County.
Most certainly. And this is a large part of why we have endorsed President Trump, because we're on the ground. We see these violent individuals coming into our country and onto our island that have no regard for human life, that have no regard for our laws. And quite frankly, we need a leader in the White House that is going to shut that border to illegal immigration. Open it up to people that want to come here illegally and contribute to the country, but shut it down to fentanyl, shut it down to the drug cartels. That's absolutely critical for our police force, because if not, Tom, we're going to be overwhelmed. It has to stop. We have to stem the tide here of illegal immigration and have a rational border policy. And President Trump is the right person to do that. And that's why the Suffolk County PBA has endorsed him for President of the United States.
Well, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. I think he was on one of his rallies, and he basically said that he's been endorsed by every police organization in the United States of America. Now, that's no surprise. I mean, the guy gets up there and he talks about officer safety. He talks about protecting people, lowering crime rates, in addition to making sure that every police officer has qualified immunity. I'll be honest, I don't even recall any politician saying that. And he uses as part of his regular stump speech that he's out there saying that. So there's no surprise that this is how he feels. And this is what would be part of public policy. You have his opponent, VP Harris, who said that she wanted to, at one point they have all these sound bites, and we talk about them, we play them on the show all the time, how she wanted to decriminalize people that jumped the border, that came in here illegally, decriminalize it, not to prosecute them. And she was very supportive of an open border. And no one's ever going to be able to explain to me the rhyme or reason of an open border that we've had for the last 4 years. Now we're all dealing with that. And my cares and concerns, same as you, to our police officers that are the front lines to this, and they're the ones dealing with this. 600,000 nationwide. I mean, that's a staggering number. When one thinks about it. As I said, we'll have DA Tierney on right after you, and he's talking about a Mastic Beach gang member who just pled guilty to manslaughter, robbery, and conspiracy to commit murder. Again, all part of this whole gang ideology. And we're seeing a lot of these gangs now infiltrating as they come across the border with human trafficking, and you mentioned fentanyl. So this is not an easy problem. I don't see it solved overnight because it was over 3 years in the making. Lou?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should not be ceding our streets, our neighborhoods, like Mastic, to violent gang members. And that's exactly what is occurring with this open border policy. An open border makes no sense whatsoever. It defies common sense to allow people to come to our country, to bring drugs, to bring, violence. It's something that needs to be fixed at the national level. And we're hoping to get that done, in the coming 4 years, hopefully with President Trump in the White House. And it's not going to happen overnight, Tom. It's going to take a partnership between, the federal, local, state, ICE, et cetera, to get the people that are here to victimize other people out of the country, and to let people that want to contribute, that want to pay taxes, that want to live the American dream, to bring those people and allow them access. I think that will occur over the next 4 years. I can tell you my membership is engaged. It's very exciting for me to watch, both the younger generation. So my newer cops, we've had over 300 of our members come volunteer their own time off duty to knock on doors for our endorsed candidates, including President Trump, to talk to Suffolk County residents about public safety, about why we've made the endorsements we have. And also it runs the other end, where I've actually had retirees, people who really don't have skin in the game anymore. They're not benefiting from new contracts. They just care. They care about what happens on this island. They live here. Sometimes their children and grandchildren still live here, and they don't want them to have to move. And they care about what happens on this job. This is we're part of their blue family. So I've had my retirees actually come out in their spare time in order to knock on doors and talk to Suffolk County residents.
Yeah, you've had an interesting career in law enforcement, serving time with the New York City Police Department, and then out here and doing a lot of different things with the Suffolk Police Department and so on. How would you rate that? I had the opportunity to talk to one of the young officers in Suffolk County just a couple of days ago, and I hate to say it's a lot different now, and I say that with a smile because it's certainly a lot different the way I remember it. I actually found my old T-shirt from the academy class that I was in the mid-'90s. It's kind of scary that I still have it, And so when we think about it, it's a lot different. How would you say it's different in terms of the young officers today who are on the street for a month or 2 months or 6 months or a year, the first year, let's say they were on during their probationary period, versus when we started out? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think they have it harder than ever before, Tom. I think, harder than any other generation of police officers because they're more under the microscope. Everything they do is second guess. When you and I started as a police officer, we got the benefit of the doubt. These new police officers, they never get the benefit of the doubt. If you look at what's happening over in New York City, court just ruled CCRB can now, discipline police officers. They have a right to second guess everything a police officer. There is no surer way to cripple a police department than to take a civilian who has no police experience whatsoever and give them carte blanche in disciplining and second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking the people that are actually risking their lives. So it's more difficult than ever before, and I think that extends beyond Suffolk County. I think that is everywhere in the nation, and that's why we can't recruit, quite frankly. Even our test time, it's fallen by 2/3. We have lost 2/3 of the applicants that would normally take our test.
Wow.
So it's having an exponential effect that people no longer want these jobs because it's being made. And if she wins, if Vice President Harris wins, that trend is not only going to continue, but it's going to compound. Because she has no regard for our police officers. She's on record saying she wants to defund the police. She's on record saying that more police officers don't make our neighborhoods safe. She's going to gut police departments across this nation. I truly believe that. And it would be an irreparable error to put her in the White House as far as public safety.
And I think that message has to get out. I'm glad you just said that. I try to say it every single day and how important it is, because in the end, People just want to be safe and secure, and they want to know their police department's going to be there for them. But you're right. They are under a lot more pressure, these young officers, men and women that are taking the job right now. And certainly the community here in Suffolk County supports them. But in some ways, I feel a little bad for them that they don't have the same leeways that we had right now. We have an attorney general in this state that automatically reviews cases where deadly physical force is being used. And, again, that should be done on the local level where they know the local dynamic and so on, that we should not be prosecuting police officers, and then we shouldn't be doing that, particularly to the extent that they do that right now. So I agree with you. This political year, and we have every right to talk about the political year that's going on right now. I think it's that important. I mean, we have. She compared. I play these sound bites all the time of what she said in the past and what she said not so much in the past, particularly when it comes to immigration customs enforcement. See, I look at every law enforcement agency as a law enforcement agency, whether it's ICE, DEA, whether it's the Suffolk Police Department, whether it's the Southampton Village Police Department, whatever you want to say. Cops are cops, law enforcement is law enforcement. She compared them to the Ku Klux Klan. And I have that clip, and we play it every once in a while. That doesn't go away from your brain. You can't say, well, I'm running for president right now. I better widen my base a little bit, and I got to appeal to more moderate conservative people. That just doesn't go away. How can anybody think that, Lou? I mean, what kind of mantra is that to work under?
Well, disgraceful to disparage our nation's police officers in that manner. Completely untrue. What a terrible, terrible thing to say. But it doesn't surprise me, Tom. Like I said, she doesn't really have any regard for our brave men and women of law enforcement in this country. So it's not shocking that those words came out of her mouth. Just completely misguided.
Yeah, and again, I hope it works out for us. Let's say if Donald Trump is elected, and I keep telling the people, listen, let's say you don't like his personality. He's only got 4 years. And then in 4 years, to me, there's a great farm team out there of people that could pick up the mantle in 4 years, people that can move this country even further into the 21st century. I see some great individuals, people that you have met over the course of the time period of being the president of PBA and so on. Yeah, leaders, not necessarily presidential, but guys like Jim Jordan, who came out to accept Donald Trump's endorsement, standing right with you. In giving that endorsement. These are very notable individuals. They seem to say everything right as far as I'm concerned. And, again, I'm assuming you got the same impression when I saw them out there with you.
Most certainly, and Congressman Jordan has been a leader in terms of defending the Constitution and stopping censorship. So one of the things that I said to him was that I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, as does every single one of my members. So to see the Constitution under attack in such a manner, when you can't speak out, when you can't criticize your government for things like forced vaccines, or if you can't express your opinion to say, hey, I think maybe the Wuhan lab is where this deadly disease came from, and I don't believe the bat story that we were all told. I mean, that is close to the heart of what America is, to be able to offer dissenting opinions, to be able to criticize the government without backlash. And you had millions of Americans just silenced. You had the Biden White House working with private companies to infringe upon the First Amendment of American citizens. That is disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. And it's anti-American. And quite frankly, it was illegal and it should never have occurred. That's what's at stake in this election. I think you have to take the personalities out of it. I understand that not everyone is going to like the personality of Donald Trump. I think, and especially for us in public safety, we take the personalities, we put them aside, and we look at the policies, right? Who is going to stand up against censorship? Who is going to stand up for our nation's police officers? Who's going to stand up for our kids in terms of health? When you look at the poison that's being put in our food and how many of these ingredients, these dyes, are illegal in other countries, but here we have an obesity problem. When I tell you, Tom, most of our country, 21-year-olds, they wouldn't qualify for our police jobs.
I know.
Pass the physical standards test.
I know.
Because we have become that sick and that obese. And a lot of that is due to the policy of people in our government. And I think that certainly needs to change. And I think in having Donald Trump in the White House, I know RFK, the endorsement there and some of his priorities, I think some of these things are going to get a hard look at these drug companies and food companies that have done a heck of a lot of damage to our nation.
I think how important that is. Once again, Louis Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA, on with us every other week. Lou, thank you so much. It was a great discussion. I always enjoy speaking with you. And we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks, my friend.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it, Tom.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We got our DA coming up next, DA Ray Tierney, talking about some of the cases we were just discussing. And then we're going to take your phone calls, folks. We'll be right back.